one of the biggest lies that people tell about Baltimore, ain't nobody doing nothing, ain't nobody got no programs, ain't no, like every time there's a program, news story about dirt bikes in Baltimore, I'm like, everybody should be running a story about her, talking about her organization. But that's not what happens. And the problem is that particularly as it relates, because this is my line of work, particularly what happens with resourcing and funding, you know, because the media can really help support black institutions when you talk about funding the work that we do. A good example of that, because people were, I was trying to bring this up like a dozen times, but you know, the event was going good. So, so the Children and Youth Fund, $12 million fund created by the city government in 2016 by then President Jack Young and the city council. That went alive last year, and I think about 85 organizations were funded, the majority of which were small black grassroots organizations. Now, that process is not being run by a foundation, it's not being run by the city government, it's being run by mostly young people of color like myself and other folks. But most people don't know about that because that's not the news that's available, that's not the news that people care about. And in terms of the work that's going on, like the stuff you're talking about, people want to be connected to the gatekeepers, when the reality is, that's the problem. That Baltimore has way too many damn gatekeepers, and everyone's spending all their energy trying to figure out how to get next to the person who got the money. Like most of us don't even really know the folks who really have money. We stuck somewhere in the middle with somebody who think they got a relationship with somebody who has resources. So I feel, so what my recommendation, so most of what my recommendation would be, I mean, I know for us, I mean, I work in public policy, so I know that with dirt bikes in Baltimore, most of it's like the biggest hurdle is the legislative challenge in terms of them being illegal. So talking about a bill through city council or state law, making sure that the dirt bikes are not illegal or that there's regulations around them, that's the kind of stuff that we do. So to me, that's the first step, but there's other things, you know, that in terms of supporting the work that you do, I think is great. And the last part I'll say, I ain't really said much. The last part I'll say is, you know, part of the problem in Baltimore as it relates to resourcing black institutions is that there's a lot of white people at the top who control a lot of the infrastructure. And, you know, I mentioned some of those people earlier, but the problem is that because so many of us, like I mentioned, are trying to be close to the gatekeepers, we're trying to be next to the black people who think they got the relationships to get the, you know, most of us don't really have the kind of support we need. And so I feel like it's always essential that we have good relationships, like kind of we're talking about with media, you know, the black people in the media organizations, making sure that they can make stuff move, shift resources. But that's how we get resources a lot of the time. Is that we know the black people who are working for us in the institutions, and when it doesn't work, then they, you know, they tell us and let us know. But I just want to commit publicly to making sure that we support what you do and that we try to interrupt and disrupt some of these systemic forces, because we ain't got time to be debating about what we should do. Ain't nobody doing nothing. There's plenty of black people doing work every day, and we shouldn't be telling ourselves the lie that white people tell us that ain't nobody doing nothing, because like we just said, it's already positive stuff going on. So I just want to lift you up.
We're about 30 minutes over schedule. Very quick.
Real quick, the last thing I want to say, I'm glad you said what you said about the importance of black institutions having a relationship with black media, because I think we need more Jeromes, right? Because anytime I come out with a story, I literally send my story to Jerome, and like for example, me and Malik, we worked on a short story for former Harlem Globetrotter Jonte Hall about some weeks ago, and I sent it to Jerome. He invited me to. That's part of the reason why I'm here. And then what happened was WBAL picked up. They picked up the story of Jonte and did another story on him as well. So I'm glad you said that's important for us to have relationships with black media.
For the most part, anybody who works in this business, if you just pick up the phone and call us, or your emails, whatever, and you've got something positive, man, first thing we do is run to the assignment desk. I had a great story. Got a positive story. Positive. I'm constantly feeding positive stories to the assignment desk, and then you hope that they get covered, that they understand it. You follow up a couple of days later. Hey, what happened to that story idea I gave you? Sometimes you get the weirdest excuses, but you keep at it. You keep at it. If you have a positive story, it's got to be told, and eventually it does. And you know, if Andre comes to the assignment desk, I come to the assignment desk. You know, the anchors, generally they're going to listen to us. They're going to cover the story. You know, we're not going to waste your time. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah.
I just want to say, real briefly, since this was about how black men are portrayed in the media, I just want to say that coming out of this room, I think it's going to be incumbent upon the Stans of the world, me, Skylers, those of us who work in the media, it's up to us to make a renewed effort to make sure that we are cognizant of how black men are being portrayed in the media. And I think it's also beholden on all the black men in here, to provide a positive example in your communities, wherever you are, how you dress, how you speak, how you're perceived. That goes a long way, and then it's up to everyone else to let us know what is going on. Call the Baltimore Sun, call WBAL, call WMAR, call us and let us know, because a lot of the problem is that we don't know about some of these things. So we can do a better job at making sure that black men are portrayed positively in the community, but you guys can also, you are stakeholders as well. You can come to us and put pressure on us, like Nikki was saying. Tweet us, Facebook us, Instagram us. Right.
Yeah.
But let us know who's on your block, who's at your church, who's at your school that's doing something positive that you want us to portray, so that we can all collectively make sure that black men are portrayed positively in the media. And I just wanted to leave you with that.
All right. Thanks. Just want to give a quick shout out, Beverly Burke, my former co-anchor at MDR. 30 years ago. He moved to head coach of Dunbar High School. Anybody else I forget? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for coming. I think we've had a very productive.
Our president. Oh.
I'm getting there, if you allow me.
I'm worried. I didn't want to.
I'm the hostess with Moses. You allow me to get there. With grace and dignity.
I was so worried that you were going to forget our president.
You do it. My goodness.
I'm here for the men, but our president.
Not radio.
This young generation.
It's been a wonderful discussion. It's been an eye-opening discussion. Those of us who are old, seasoned professionals, we always are learning new things. We're always open to learning new things. You can never know too much. It's always a learning process, and I've learned a lot from listening to you, each and every one of you, having concerns. I'm looking forward to working with anybody here who's got something positive they want to portray in the community. Please just call me, email me. I don't do social media, so you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Email or call me, and generally I always get back to you, and generally that story's going to get on the air if you've got something positive to say. All right, at this time, I'd like to bring out the president of the Baltimore chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists.
Thank you all so much for coming, and I'm not going to keep you long. I just need to acknowledge some people. Number one, we have to acknowledge our immediate past president, Nikki Mayo. She is the jewel in our crown. I also want to acknowledge Jerome, because whenever he is there. And I want all of the men in our chapter, please raise your hands. Because we tell them every year, y'all need to do this. This is the Black Male Media Project, and they step up. And last but certainly not least, we need to stand up and give a round of applause to this excellent guest. Thank you all for coming.